This is Alex Colvin, Pit River Country History and News, and I'm here today with Paul Herington and his wife Kathy. And Paul came to Burney in the late 1940s and was here right up into the early 50s. And then he went in the Navy and moved away for a while. And then he came back here in the 1960s. And so I'm just here to have him share, and also if Kathy would like to share, any memories that they have of what Burney was like. What was Burney like when you came here? Tell about how you came here and what it was like in that period of time.
Well, it was actually the population was about the same as it is now, and it really hasn't grown a lot over the years. But the downtown area was all the stores were occupied. There was businesses going on in there, and there was bars there, which they don't have now. But they've had quite a change in the type of employment too. They had more logging going on closer in, and they had the one mill was a big mill. That was Scott's Lumber Company, and then there were some small mills around too. And of course those are all but it's now Sierra Pacific. Scott's is Sierra Pacific now. The small mills are gone. The lumber has pretty well been cut out. Not a lot of lumber anymore. So, but I do remember the. It was a nice place to live. There was everything that, it was a typical small town. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody seemed to get along real well. But I don't know now. It's quite different now. But it was very impressive to me. My father built a restaurant here in 1948, and he and my mother ran it for 4 years.
What was the name of the restaurant?
Cascade Pines. Yeah. It's, you know where the barber shop is there now?
Yes.
That two-story, well, that's the building he built.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we lived upstairs, and the bottom was the restaurant. Mm-hmm. The apartments that are behind there now, they weren't there at that time.
Uh-huh.
And then there's an apartment right directly behind the building, and that was the garage. That was a two-car garage. And
so what kind of food did you serve?
oh, it was just normal.
Like a cafe? Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my mother usually cooked the big meals, or cooked the whatever they had. That was roasts or whatever like that. She did that. She baked all the pies.
Wow.
And my dad, he was more of the fry cook. He took care of it in the morning. Actually, we didn't have a lunch. I don't know. It was only open, I think, something like up till 10 o'clock, 7 to 10, and then it was closed until dinner. And then after the dinner, of course, they cleaned it up, and that was the end of it.
So you got a lot of traffic from the mill then? Actually,
we didn't get much local people.
Oh.
Very, very little. Some of the business people that were here, they came in, fairly regular. But as far as the other people, we never really saw any of them. It was tourists is what we had mostly.
Uh-huh.
They were only open from usually just before fishing season started, clear through summer up until deer season ended.
Uh-huh.
And that was it, because that was the end of the tourist trade. So they closed it down, and then in the winter time they would go usually down to Southern California. That's where all
I
their
see.
relatives
Yeah.
and all were at. My brother and I stayed here because we were going to school,
Uh-huh.
and so
So what age were you? What year did you come to Burney, and what age were you?
I was 14 in 1948. I came to Burney, and I was in the 8th grade. Went to the 8th grade elementary school up on the hill, and then the rest of the time I was in the Fall River High School in MacArthur. Yeah. So and then I left in the end of 1951, November. That's when I went in the Navy.
So what did teenagers do in Burney back then?
Well, the big attraction, I think, for a big portion of the boys was, of course, was the hunting and the fishing. That was a big thing. The girls, I don't know. I don't know what they did really when they weren't going to school. I don't know.
So you did a lot of hunting and fishing back then?
Yes, yeah. My dad was quite a hunter, and he was, mostly bird hunting. We did that. There was a lot. It was really good. It's not near as good as it used to be. They don't grow their own feed so much like they did at that time. Like in the Big Valley up at Beaver, there was ranchers up there that grew their own feed and all, and there was a lot of pheasants. Pheasants were lots of pheasants up there, and that was a big attraction. But they don't do that anymore, and there's no more pheasants. So.
Was that primarily the bird hunting that you did was pheasants, or did you do ducks?
Ducks and geese, mostly, probably, because Fall River was a big area for ducks and geese. And then quail, there's a lot of quail around, quail hunted. It was real good, a good place to be.
Yeah.
But
my grandfather used to love going duck hunting, and when he came back, then we always had roast duck for dinner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I missed all that. I did it for a while, and then it got to be where it was too big of a struggle to go anymore, so I just quit doing it. Yeah. I mean, it was just not enough there to, to get anything out of it. Things have changed a lot over the years.
So in 1951, then you joined the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you returned back, and you lived in Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when you met your lovely wife Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you decided to move back up here.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to move back up to Burney?
Well, mainly I wanted to get out of Southern California. That was the big thing.
And it wasn't even as crowded then as it is now.
No, that was in 66. It wasn't. It's terrible now. It was terrible then, but yeah. And I thought, well, you're raising a family, and that's another thing. I thought this would be a good place to be if you're raising a family. They don't have all the bad influences here, I don't think. At that time, of course they do now, but at that time they didn't have it.
So, did you see changes in Burney? Because you had been gone for 15 years. So you experienced life here in the late 40s and up to 1951 as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Then you came back as an adult in 1966. Did you find Burney had changed, or was it pretty much the same?
It was pretty much the same. The work was the same. There was mill work or driving truck. That was basically all there was here. There wasn't about the same amount of businesses, although they come and go. The businesses come and go, but yeah, it was about the same between those two periods. Now, in this last time we've been here, I see there's a big change here, and not for the better either.
Can you elucidate a little bit?
Well, the drug problem is the biggest thing, I think. And it just, this is a place, I think, where a lot of people that are doing drugs or selling or whatever, they come to a place like this because they don't have much law enforcement here. I mean, they do have law enforcement, but it just seems like they're pretty lax. They get away with a lot more here, I think, than they would in a Reading or another big city. And so I think it's kind of a haven for a lot of them there. And that's a real disheartening thing, I think, to see all that going on and nothing's really being done about it. But other than that, there's still some people here that I knew before. I've known, since long before. But the most of them are probably moved out or passed away or whatever. So I have one man up he lives in Fall River. I went to high school with him. He's still here. And, I think that's about it. The only ones locally. They have a reunion. They had a reunion, a 60th anniversary or reunion here in 2013, and I missed it. I wasn't able to go to it, but they had several people came in. There was probably about 12, 14 people there that are still, but they weren't all from my class. Some of them were from different classes too. So, yeah.
And when you came here in 1966, who did you work? What kind of work did you do then? And now you came back, and your wife was with you, and you had one child. And
well, in '66, when I came back, I didn't really have a job to go to, and they had another mill here at the time, out on 89. It was Lorenz Lumber Company.
The Lorenz Lumber Company.
And they made plywood and lumber, both, cut lumber. And I got in there. I worked in the plywood side for a short time. I was there 2 or 3 weeks, something like that, and then I got laid off. And that's when I started, a buddy of mine he was driving a log truck, and he told me of a place that I could probably get a job, and I did. I ended up going to work there.
And what outfit was that?
It was, well, at the time, the man's name was Lowell Kent. He had 2 trucks, and he was from over on the coast. And I drove for him for a while, and then the company that I actually worked for later on was Lindsay Trucking.
She's taking pictures.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. That'll be just part of the thing there. That is their son Patrick. Not the son that came here in 1966.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the son that was here in 1966. And so he came. How old was he when he came up?
He was a year.
One year old.
Yeah.
So he didn't grow up to school age here then.
No.
But so what was the name of the second company? You said you worked for Lorenz, and then you worked for one.
Lindsay. There was 2 brothers and the father that owned it, and they had 8 trucks, and they did all their own falling and loading and everything. Hauling. We hauled into Lorenz. Off highway, it was all off highway, so we were hauling big loads.
Did you still have big trees at that time?
Yeah.
I mean, bigger than the trees that they're hauling around today.
Yeah, we were hauling a lot of like 3 log loads and some real big stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, they don't have anything like that today. They do have some way out in the woods somewhere, but not you don't see them very often.
Yeah, it was 1955 to 1961 that I spent all my summers up here, out on the ranch. And yeah, I mean, walking through the woods, or a truck would come through town, sometimes 1 log, or 2 logs or 3 logs. I mean, they were really big trees back then.
Yeah, they can't haul one. The only way they can haul 1 log on a truck, if it's that big, they have to get a permit, a special permit. So what they usually do is they'll take a little small one and put it down on the bunk,
Oh,
and then put the big
uh-huh.
one there, see?
Uh-huh.
So they'll
Yeah.
have two, they don't have to have a special permit.
That's interesting, yeah.
That's how they get around that, yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And then they're in accord with the regulations.
Mhm, yeah. Yeah,
So what was your territory in terms of the logging and the hauling?
Well, we hauled it out of town. It was north of here. It's Forest Service land, and it's also, there are some private outfits up there like fruit growers, and then there's some individuals had property up there that we were logging on.
Uh-huh.
But these are all, this logging we did was all virgin stuff. It never ever been cut before. It was big stuff, yeah, nice stuff. But it's all been cut out now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They don't clear cut it up there, but they kind of go through it and take what they want, you know.
Uh-huh.
So.
Now you mentioned fruit growers. How long have they, do you know how long they've been, had
Here?
property around here in Burney?
No, I don't. It's been a long time though. Yeah.
Because
It's-
back in the 60s they were here.
Yeah, they were here when, I'm sure they were here when I was here in the 40s too.
In the 40s.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
I'll try to find somebody from the fruit growers to talk about their history in here. Because it seems like the lumber companies and PG&E, you know, that's, you know, the thing. Were they still, when you came here in the 40s, were they still working on the pit projects? Or was that
No.
finished?
No, that was done. The Pit One powerhouse, that was built back in the 30s, I think it was, put in the 30s. And then Lake Britain was here when I came here, so the dam there at the other end of Lake Britain was there.
Uh-huh.
And they had, of course, they have powerhouses down in the canyon
Right,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, everything is about the same way it was then,
Uh-huh.
when I came here.